The scent of motor oil and fine metal dust was still clinging to my coveralls when I rolled into my driveway. 12 hours in the shop had left me bone-weary, and all I wanted was a glimpse of my pride and joy, my 1967 Camaro SS. I'd spent a year and a half resurrecting that machine from a rusted wreck into flawless glory. I clicked the garage opener. The door groaned upward, unveiling chrome bright enough to hurt your eyes and paint so rich it looked like you could dive in. That's when it all went sideways. Thief. Somebody call 911. He's stealing my car. My neighbor Brenda, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, came barreling across the lawn like an angry pit bull. Cell phone already glued to her ear. Yes, there's a black man stealing my car right now. Send everyone. Sirens were already screaming somewhere close. She hadn't even bothered to ask me a question. I stood in my own driveway, keys in my hand, staring at my own car. About to get arrested for grand theft auto. What would you do if your neighbor decided to use the police as a weapon against you in your own driveway? Drop a flag emoji. Let's see how far this madness spreads. My name's Marcus, and I'm a third-generation mechanic. My grandfather taught my dad. My dad taught me, and for 6 decades we've been keeping this town's engines alive. After my divorce last spring, my ex suddenly decided grease under my nails wasn't charming anymore. I scraped together what I had left to buy a modest place in Willowbrook Estates. The real estate pitch was perfect lawns, matching mailboxes, everyone keeps to themselves. The Camaro wasn't some klitsch midlife crisis toy. I found her at an estate sale a year and a half ago, a corroded shell most people would have traded for $30 at the scrapyard. But I saw the bones. I saw American muscle waiting for a second life. $3,000 to $100 later, she was mine. Weekends became my sacred rebuild time. A fresh 350 small block, a rebuilt turbo 400 transmission, full suspension overhaul. The paint job alone was 4 months of sanding, priming, and wet sanding until that hugger orange gleamed like a warning beacon. I kept meticulous photo records for insurance, every bolt, gasket, and bead of sweat, and a 3-ring binder of receipts thick enough to stop a bullet. The smell of primer and steel dust became my Saturday cologne, my coffee cooling on the bench while I chased mechanical perfection. Then there was Brenda Wilson Willowbrooks walking, talking HOA fever dream. She'd moved in 5 years ago and instantly declared herself ruler of all. A real estate agent who drove a spotless white BMW, nails so perfect they'd never touched a wrench, hair sprayed into architectural defiance, and a smile cold enough to freeze coolant. 3 years running as HOA president, unchallenged because no one else wanted to be the neighborhood enforcer. Her weapon of choice: paperwork. Trash cans left out 12 minutes too long. Fence posts a fraction of an inch over regulation. Even mailbox fonts. She one-sided me for grass she claimed was over the 2.5-inch maximum. She showed up with a ruler. 2 weeks before the garage door fiasco, she marched over while I was bleeding brake lines. Apparently, the sound of my impact wrench after PM violated her peace. Excuse me, there's a noise ordinance. No power tools after 6. I wiped my hands, stayed calm. City rules say hobby work is fine until 9. I can show you. Her smile iced over. We'll see about that. This kind of industrial activity hurts property values, she said. Industrial, like I was running a meth lab instead of restoring history. The day everything blew up started with her monthly poolside showcase Saturday morning, her yard full of neighborhood wives sipping mimosas and fake laughing over vacation photos. I could hear it all through my garage walls. Then her voice sliced through the chatter. Oh, that's my new Camaro. Just bought it from a dealer in Phoenix, 45 grand, but worth every penny. They're shipping it next week. My wrench hit the floor. She was showing photos on her phone, pictures of a car identical to mine, accepting compliments like she'd invented the V8. That afternoon, I needed brake fluid. I fired up my baby and eased out. The deep growl of the 350 echoed off the houses. like rolling thunder. An hour later, I came back to find Brenda in her driveway, arms crossed, face red, staring at my car like a hawk about to strike. I nodded. She didn't, just burned holes in my paint job with her eyes. That night, I'm sure she was online building her fantasy, piece by delusional piece, convincing herself I'd somehow stolen her purchase. By morning, she'd evolved from irritating neighbor to full-blown danger, a Karen with a crusade. When 2 patrol cars tore into my driveway, lights flashing, I knew my evening was cooked. 4 officers jumped out like it was a hostage situation. "Evening, sir," said one Rodriguez, a veteran with kind eyes. His younger partner, Morgan, was built like a linebacker. "We got a report of a stolen vehicle at this address." The absurdity hit me like a hammer. "Stolen? Officer, this is my car, in my garage, at my house." That's like saying I stole my own fridge. Brenda appeared beside them like a suburban ghost. "That's him. That's the thief. I just bought that Camaro for $45,000. I took a breath, tasting exhaust and irony. My dad's words came back. "Documentation beats desperation. Officers, I can prove this is mine." I pulled up the album on my phone, 18 months of rebuild photos, from rusted shell to finished masterpiece. Rodriguez scrolled through, eyebrows rising at each stage. "That's serious work," he said. "You do this professionally? Family? Business?" My grandfather would have smacked me with a wrench for sloppy work. Meanwhile, Brenda shoved a handful of printed photos at them, grainy dealer images. "No VIN, no receipts." "Ma'am," Rodriguez asked, "do you have a bill of sale? Bank transfer? Dealer contact?" Her face flushed crimson. "It's processing. Paperwork takes time for classics." While she spun her story, I pulled my binder from the bench. "DMV registration, my name, my address, VIN match, insurance, docs with progress photos." Everything lined up. "Still," she pushed, "he forged it all. This is some elaborate scam. Time for the nuke." From the back of the binder, I slid out a yellowed page, the handwritten bill of sale from a 93-year-old widow, 1967 Chevrolet Camaro. Condition as is. $3,200 cash. Her signature, the estate name, phone number, and date. Rodriguez examined it like rare treasure. Original purchase document. Eleanor Hutchinson had been selling her late husband's project cars. Sweet lady made me promise to show her the finished job. Silence fell so heavy I could hear sprinklers down the street. Chen, another officer, shut his notebook. "Ma'am, this man has documented ownership for over a year. Your evidence is just internet images." Rodriguez's voice took on that special cop tone reserved for public meltdowns. "Filing a false police report is a misdemeanor here. People go to jail for it." Brenda's color drained. There must be some mistake. Car shopping is stressful. But her eyes told the truth. As the officers prepared to head out, I noticed her watching me from her living room window, eyes sharp and calculating, like a chess grandmaster plotting the inevitable checkmate. This wasn't finished. This was only round 1. Monday morning yanked me out of sleep with all the grace of a diesel truck misfiring. I shuffled to the mailbox in yesterday's work clothes, coffee in hand, steam curling into the cold air, and there it was. An official HOA violation notice tucked inside like a coiled snake. Notice of covenant violation. Unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. Apparently, my work van, a completely ordinary Ford Transit with Rodriguez Family Auto painted on the side, was a violation of community standards. Fine, $200. Compliance deadline, 48 hours. At the bottom, Brenda's signature sprawled across the page as if she'd just signed off on my execution. From my kitchen window, I saw her power walking past my driveway, glancing at the van like it was parked on her grandmother's grave. Somehow her morning jog now required 17 laps past my house. I counted. Here's what most homeowners don't realize. HOA covenants aren't polite suggestions from petty suburban rulers, they're binding legal contracts. My divorce lawyer once told me that everything leaves a paper trail, and paper trails don't lie. So, during lunch, I dug through public records at the county courthouse like an archaeologist unearthing automotive history. What I found was better than stumbling across a winning lottery ticket in an old coat pocket. I bought my van in 2017, 3 years before Willowbrook introduced its commercial vehicle restrictions in 2020 that meant I was legally grandfathered in. Retroactive enforcement? Not possible. Brenda could complain until she lost her voice. She had no legal footing. I wrote a reply that would have made my dad proud, attached proof of purchase, and hand-delivered it to the HOA office. The receptionist read it, eyes widening as if she could already hear the trouble their star board member had just caused. "Oh dear," she whispered, like watching a car crash in slow motion. "Mrs. Wilson isn't going to like this." She was right. By Wednesday, my mailbox had become Brenda's personal complaint delivery system. 3 new notices appeared like bad magic. Oil stains on my driveway, which I power wash every month. Excessive automotive odors from my garage, apparently. WD-40 offends her refined suburban palate. Noise violations during perfectly legal hours. She was carpet bombing me with paperwork, hoping one would cause damage. That's when I made my best move yet. Full surveillance on my own property. 4 high-definition security cameras, night vision included, all feeding to cloud storage. They quickly revealed Brenda's new morning ritual, patrolling our fence line with her phone, snapping photos, and measuring distances with a collapsible yardstick that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. She turned neighbor watching into an Olympic event. Thursday evening brought the big play, an emergency board meeting to address my ongoing violations. The notice arrived at 4:00 p.m. for a 7:00 p.m. meeting, barely legal, and clearly meant to keep me from preparing a defense. I arrived expecting a kangaroo court, but found something worse. 3 middle-aged women sitting at a table like they were planning a bake sale. Brenda, her anxious second-in-command Clara, who seemed sorry just to be breathing, and Janet, who nodded at everything Brenda said like a dashboard bobblehead. "Where's the rest of the board?" I asked, taking a seat. Brenda's smile could have preserved meat through winter. "This is sufficient for tonight's business. We're implementing an emergency ban on all automotive repair activities, effective immediately. Past violations carry a $500 fine." I pulled out my phone and opened the HOA bylaws I'd memorized that afternoon. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is a tactical nuke. "Interesting," I said, scrolling. Section 4.3 requires 7 days notice for voting matters, and 4.7 says you need a quorum of 5 board members for an official vote. I gestured at the nearly empty room. "I see 3, which gives this meeting about as much authority as a neighborhood book club." Clara turned pink. Brenda tried to recover. "This is just preliminary discussion." Section 2.9, countered, states that invalid meetings create personal liability for board members. Her composure shattered like safety glass. "You think you're clever, don't you? Coming into our neighborhood with your people and your activities." The venom in her voice could have stripped paint. "But my dad taught me, stay calm, stick to facts, and let bullies hang themselves with their own rope." "I think I'm a homeowner who reads contracts before signing them," I replied. Novel concept. Later that night, neighbor Tom showed up, looking apologetic. "Most of us think she's lost it," he said. "Want to grab coffee tomorrow? We need to talk." Friday at 7:15 a.m., my doorbell rang. Dave Martinez from City Code Enforcement stood there, clipboard in hand, wearing the weary look of a man who's mediated to many neighbor feuds. "Sorry for the early visit," he said. "Anonymous complaint about unlicensed commercial auto repair. Mind if I look?" I showed him my garage, my weekend sanctuary. Every tool in its place, the air smelling of metal polish and clean oil. "Jesus," Dave said. "Cleaner than the shop I use." He checked my workbench for dust. "Nothing family business?" he asked. "Mechanic shop. But this is just hobby work. Weekends only." He jotted notes. then shook his head. Complainant said you were running an illegal shop. I see zero signs of commercial activity. You're good. Before leaving, he added, off the record, I've been here 4 times this month, same voice on every complaint. Lady needs a new hobby. Brenda's next attack came by certified mail to my homeowner's insurance. She'd told Progressive my garage was a fire hazard. My agent bill arrived Tuesday, but instead of trouble, I got a car enthusiast who spent 10 minutes admiring my Camaro. Whoever's after you is reaching, he said, signing off his inspection. Your setup's safer than most commercial shops. Half the garages here are death traps. Progressive responded by sending Brenda a cease and desist that basically said, stop lying or we'll charge you with fraud. But she had one more weapon. Social media, the Willowbrook neighborhood watch Facebook group appeared overnight. Brenda's opening post? Pictures of my van and garage with sugar-sweet captions about keeping our community beautiful and whether certain activities belonged in industrial zones. Tom showed me screenshots. 23 people joined in the first hour. It's like a dumpster fire, you can't stop watching. The comments split into 2 camps. My defenders armed with their own Brenda stories and the silent crowd calculating whether opposing her was worth it. Her undoing came when she started deleting dissenting comments. Nothing enrages suburbanites like censorship. The group fractured into warring factions overnight. Sunday morning, my driveway sparkled with about 24 roofing nails placed just right to shred tires. My cameras caught a hooded figure at M, moving with the jittery pace of someone committing their first crime. The walk looked familiar. Brenda always strode like she was late to an argument. Officer Morgan took my report seriously. Classic intimidation, he said. Document everything. These escalate to arrests fast. While reviewing footage, I noticed something chilling. Brenda's walks had turned into reconnaissance missions, photographing angles and measuring property lines. She wasn't just harassing me. She was gathering intel. Wednesday's mail brought the ugliest hit yet. A typed letter saying, your kind doesn't belong here. Leave or face consequences. The paper stock matched Brenda's HOA notices exactly. Detective Martinez confirmed it qualified as a hate crime under state and federal law. We're building a strong criminal case, she said. That night, Tom's Coffee Coalition grew to 6 households, each armed with their own Brenda nightmare. Mike, the lawyer, got fined over his mailbox font. Sarah, the accountant, was cited for planting flowers without permission. Group action gets results, Tom declared. I realized Brenda had just created her own worst nightmare. A united neighborhood. Friday afternoon, I was buried in the county courthouse archives. After hours of digging, I found why Brenda guarded the HOA books like nuclear codes, embezzlement, tens of thousands in HOA funds funneled to 3 companies all registered to Brenda's home address. Consulting, landscaping, that never happened. Legal fees that began during her divorce, but the most dangerous detail wasn't the theft, it was the pattern. She targeted homeowners with relentless harassment until they sold cheap, then used her real estate license to broker quick investor sales. Kickbacks, commissions, a full hustle. 3 families had already fled under this pressure. I was next on the list, and then, the kicker, buried in foreclosure notices, I found her own home in default. Over $23,000 in unpaid HOA dues to the very association she ran. Her hearing was in for weeks. The irony was so sweet, it belonged in a country song. Everything snapped into clarity, like twisting a camera lens until the image sharpened. The growing panic, the erratic harassment, the brazen false police reports, it all made sense now. Brenda wasn't just a power-drunk Karen. She was a cornered predator staring down total financial collapse. I was her final hope for landing a commission before the bank took everything. The Camaro fiasco had handed her the perfect excuse to fast-track her plan. I copied every last page, my hands shaking slightly as the copier churned out sheet after sheet of evidence. $17 to document my neighbor's little crime syndicate, the best investment I'd ever made. Back in the courthouse parking lot, I called Tom with news that would flip our entire game plan upside down. You sitting down? Because what I've just uncovered changes everything. This wasn't just survival anymore. We were about to go on the attack, and Brenda had no clue the trap was closing in. By Saturday morning, Tom's garage had transformed into mission control for Operation Takedown Karen. The air was thick with coffee, motor oil, and the sweet tang of incoming justice. Around a battered folding table, our ragtag crew of suburban insurgents had assembled. Tom had basically recruited the Avengers of neighborhood warfare: Sarah Morgan, the forensic accountant who could sniff out embezzlement like a bloodhound hunting bacon; Mike Patterson, a semi-retired corporate lawyer who considered ruining people in depositions a hobby; Linda Martinez, a high school teacher with organizational skills sharp enough to make NASA sweat; and Carlos Mendes, a contractor who knew every building code loophole in the Tri-County area. Good grief, Sarah muttered, spreading Brenda's financials across the table like a CSI tech studying blood spatter. Her embezzlement methods have all the subtlety of a brick through glass. Mike slid his glasses higher, scanning documents with a shark's focus. 78 grand in fraudulent transactions. Paper trail spotless enough to make prosecutors drool. And a documented harassment pattern? This is a dream case. Linda was already mapping a color-coded timeline on poster board, aligning harassment cycles with property sales like she'd been training for this her whole teaching career. Look at this, she targets vulnerable families, turns up the violations for months, then magically produces her investor buyers when they give up. Carlos leaned back, whistling long and low. And she's paying her divorce lawyers with HOA funds. That's not criminal genius, that's criminal stupidity. 2 hours and way too much caffeine later, the battle plan was set: Operation Documentation Fortress. Carlos would turn the neighborhood into Fort Knox: cameras, motion sensors, night vision, cloud backups. If she so much as side-eyes your mailbox, he said, we'll have it in 4,000, courtroom ready. Linda designed incident report forms like she was building a nuclear-proof exam. Dates, times, witnesses, photos, police report numbers airtight. Sarah was practically gleeful. I've got contacts who owe me favors. We'll get an independent audit that will hold up in federal court. Operation Legal Annihilation. Mike explained HOA governance like it was his love language. Board members have fiduciary duties. Every fraudulent transaction pierces personal liability protection. She's not just stealing, she's dismantling her own shield. The upcoming board elections were perfectly timed. Tom, Sarah, and Mike would run for the 3 open spots, flipping the board to our side. Criminal complaint goes in Tuesday, Mike continued, stacking police reports like puzzle pieces. Embezzlement, harassment, false reports. This is a felony. Buffett, Operation Public Humiliation. Linda took point. Flyers, social media blasts making Brenda's theft dinner table conversation in every home. 78,000 from 40 households, $2,000 a family, Linda said. Once the soccer moms hear this, it's going to get ugly. Carlos pitched the media hook. HOA president robs neighbors while racially harassing them. Channel 7 will eat it alive. The strategy was simple: let Brenda believe she was winning while we built a legal cage around her. I'd keep my routine, act clueless, and let her desperation pile up the evidence. Classic rope-a-dope, Mike said, smiling like a man who'd ended countless careers in court. Let her swing wild while we document every miss. The timing was perfect. Foreclosure hearing in 3 weeks, audit results in 2, elections in 4, disasters converging like a demolition ballet. Sarah had already lined up Channel 7's attack dog reporter, Janet Mills. HOA fraud meant ratings, and Janet was salivating. Mike found the death blow: her real estate license renewal in 6 weeks required a clean record. Fraud conviction? Gone. Forever. Financial ruin plus career death equals total annihilation, he said with the satisfaction of a man watching a perfect sunset. As the War Council broke up, Tom clasped my shoulder. 2 months ago, you were the quiet mechanic. Now you're leading a neighborhood revolt. I looked over the evidence walls and battle schedules. The shift from isolated target to resistance leader felt unreal, like waking up to find you could fly. Sometimes bullies pick the wrong target, I said. She's about to learn that the hard way. The trap was baited and set. All we had to do was wait. Monday morning, the neighborhood got its alarm bell. Brenda's voice cutting the air at m. She paced her driveway, phone glued to her ear, waving wildly at anyone dumb enough to look at her. I need an emergency board meeting. Tonight? Something's happening and I need legal protection. Through my kitchen window, I watched her scramble for support. Clara showed up reluctantly, Janet a few minutes later, but doubt was already etched on their faces. By noon, an emergency assessment notice hit every mailbox. $500 per home to fund legal defense against outside agitators. The letter accused me of plotting to sue the HOA and demanded immediate payment. What Brenda didn't know. Tom was parked nearby, recording her 3-person meeting. Her voice crackled on playback later. They're investigating our finances. I don't know how much they know, but we need to control the story. Clara's hesitant voice floated through. Brenda, maybe we should just know. I've worked too hard. If I have to leave town, fine. But I'm not going down alone. Mike grinned like a wolf. The audio was courtroom gold. Wednesday night, she escalated vandalism with a side of idiocy. My security cameras caught her at 2:47 a.m., decked out in black yoga pants and a hoodie, lugging a revenge kit, tire slasher, spray paint, and containers of motor oil she stashed behind my garage. The evidence placement took 15 minutes under my floodlight, in full HD, face and BMW license plate on display. Thursday's code inspection was a comedy. The oil containers still had Home Depot price tags. The inspector reminded her that fresh motor oil wasn't even a violation. Ma'am, filing false environmental reports is a federal offense. I'll be forwarding this to fraud investigation. By afternoon, her social media was a bonfire. The Willowbrook Neighborhood Watch page turned into her personal meltdown diary. Friday at m. she posted, "Some people don't understand communities have standards. When certain elements move in, decent folks have to protect their investments." Screenshot saved. Forwarded to the legal team. Saturday, she tried bribery. Carlos was installing Linda's cameras when she waddled up with an envelope stuffed with cash. $2,000 if you forget about those cameras and stop helping with this harassment campaign. Carlos kept working, recording the whole thing. I'm just helping neighbors protect their property. Maybe talk to a lawyer. I don't need lawyers. I need control back. She snapped. Her voice cracked like glass. By Sunday, she went nuclear. Another false police report claiming I'd threatened her with a weapon. Officers found me in my garage, elbow deep in a transmission, with 3 witnesses. "Ma'am, this is your 4th false report in 2 weeks, Officer Morgan said flatly. "You're facing charges." Monday's audit results were worse than we'd thought. Not $78,000 stolen, but $96,000 skimmed over 30 months. She'd been charging every home for fake services and pocketing the difference. She wasn't just broke, she was a career thief running out of runway. Then came Tuesday night's grand finale, a break-in worthy of the Three Stooges. At 2:33 a.m., Brenda used a stolen master key to sneak into the HOA office. Security footage caught her feeding documents into a shredder like she was making confetti, all with the grace of a rhino in tap shoes. The silent alarm tripped instantly. Officer Rodriguez arrived to find her surrounded by paper snowdrifts, financial records reduced to the world's most expensive trash. "Ma'am, step away from the computer and keep your hands where I can see them," Officer Rodriguez ordered, probably questioning how his quiet Tuesday night shift had turned into a live-action training video for rookie cops. Brenda's reply could have been ripped straight from a soap opera script. You don't understand, they're destroying everything I've worked for. This place was perfect before they came. The air in the office was thick with the scent of overheated electronics and anxious sweat as the cuffs clicked shut and her rights were read aloud. Later, watching the security footage, I almost felt sympathy. Almost until I remembered the fabricated police reports and staged vandalism calls. Her bail was set at $25,000, though for Brenda, it might as well have been $25 million, given her finances looked like the Titanic after it met the iceberg. She spent 3 nights in county jail, probably the first stretch in her adult life where she couldn't demand to speak to the manager. While our fallen neighborhood despot was sampling government accommodations, Clara made the move that sealed Brenda's fate. She visited the jail, a digital recorder hidden in her purse. What she captured was pure gold for the prosecution. "I need your help, Clara." Brenda's voice cracked through the phone line when Clara played it back. For the rest of us, her desperation was almost tangible. "There's cash in my garage, behind the water heater. We can disappear before this gets any worse." Clara's uneasy voice barely registered in the recording. "Brenda, I can't." $50,000, Brenda pressed. "Help me and we'll start over somewhere. No one knows us." When Mike heard it, he let out a low whistle. "Confession to theft, conspiracy, flight risk, obstruction of justice. She's basically trying to set a world record for criminal stupidity." By Thursday night, the emergency neighborhood meeting had packed the community center to the rafters. The room buzzed with outrage, and the coffee was so strong it could strip rust. 43 households showed up, and the collective fury could have powered the strip for a week. Tom presented Sarah's final audit findings with the satisfaction of someone laying down a royal flush. The figures were staggering. Brenda hadn't just taken $78,000, she'd built a whole criminal operation, complete with phantom vendors, padded contracts, and kickback deals, totaling $112,000 over 3 years. "Every single family in this room has been systematically robbed," Tom announced, prompting gasps and some inventive profanity. "That's an average of $2,800 per household." The vote of no confidence was unanimous except for Janet, who abstained while looking like she wanted to tunnel straight to Canada. 33 households demanded Brenda's immediate removal, criminal charges, and full repayment with interest. By Friday morning, Brenda had finally gotten the media spotlight she always wanted, just not as the hero. Channel 7's van pulled up at dawn, followed by every other station in town. Reporter Janet Mills was practically giddy, knowing she'd stumbled onto an award-worthy HOA scandal. The night's news opened with HOA president arrested in massive embezzlement scheme, featuring Brenda's mugshot and footage of her frantically shredding papers like a performance artist gone rogue. When the camera turned to me, I used every bit of tact my divorce had trained into me. "This isn't about revenge," I said carefully. "It's about holding people accountable when they abuse positions of trust." The story exploded online, trending nationally within hours. Thousands shared their own HOA horror stories, cheering our David versus Goliath victory. Brenda's real estate license was suspended immediately. Past clients filed complaints about suspicious deals, and her professional reputation went radioactive. Her house went to foreclosure auction for $280,000, 70 grand under market, because nothing scares buyers like news vans and felony charges. Then came her Facebook meltdown, a mascara-streaked, tear-soaked video blaming everyone but herself. "I was just trying to protect our community," she wailed. "Sometimes good people have to make hard choices." Neighbors unloaded years of pent-up grievances in the comments. The video vanished in hours, but screenshots are forever. Her reign was officially over. The sentencing hearing landed on a crisp Thursday morning, feeling like the grand finale of the world's most satisfying reality show. The courthouse lot looked like a neighborhood reunion, over 40 of us, carpooling like it was the Super Bowl. Inside, the courtroom overflowed with familiar faces. The air was charged with anticipation. Brenda sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit that clashed spectacularly with her bleached hair, looking like a balloon animal that had lost a fight with a leaf blower. Channel 7's cameras were locked in place. Jana Mills in the front row. When Judge Patricia Hernandez called for victim impact statements, I stood first, heart pounding but voice steady. 3 months ago, this started with a woman calling 911 because I opened my own garage door. I began. But it was never really about a car. It was about power, control, and what happens when someone thinks they can terrorize their neighbors without consequences. I recounted the harassment, the fake reports, the theft that drained thousands from every family. And most of all, I talked about fear, how Brenda had weaponized her authority to make people unsafe in their own homes. She didn't just steal our money, I said, looking straight at her. She stole our peace of mind, our sense of community, our trust. Tom followed with his steady postal workers' authority. Sarah laid out the financial evidence like a surgeon. Linda spoke on the example we'd set by standing up to corruption. When it was Brenda's turn, her lawyer launched into a dramatic monologue about mental health struggles, divorce, financial stress, everything but personal accountability. Brenda stood, tears flowing on cue. I never meant to hurt anyone, she sniffled. I was trying to uphold standards, protect property values. Leadership sometimes means making tough decisions. The room practically rolled its eyes in unison. Even her own lawyer looked like he wanted to hide under the table. Judge Hernandez was done. Miss Wilson, in 30 years on this bench, I've rarely seen such a calculated abuse of fiduciary responsibility mixed with racial harassment and intimidation. She laid out the charges. Brenda refused to own up to stealing from her neighbors, filing false police reports, destroying evidence, trying to flee. The sentence: 4 years in state prison, full repayment of $112,000 plus court costs, and 5 years probation. The gavel came down like a thunderclap, and the room erupted in applause. As Brenda was led away in shackles, she finally looked back, not with regret, but with pure loathing for the people who dared to hold her accountable. Outside, a reporter asked me what advice I'd give to others facing HOA abuse. Document everything. Build community. Truth wins, I said. That line went viral by nightfall, but standing there, I realized the bigger truth. We hadn't just beaten a bully, we'd proven what neighbors could achieve when they fought back together. 6 months later, Willowbrook Estates had transformed. The air now smelled of backyard barbecues instead of tension. Kids played outside without fear. Tom was HOA president, Sarah treasurer, Mike handled legal affairs. We had transparency, posted monthly financials, announced meetings in advance, and required proof for violation notices. The community garden Brenda once tried to kill was thriving. Property values had jumped 15, the restitution payments arrived monthly, and watching neighbors pay off debt or plan vacations with reclaimed money felt like justice in action. Brenda, meanwhile, was folding laundry in prison for 60 cents an hour. Film students made a documentary, Garage Door Justice, an American story that won regional awards and got national distribution. I used my appearance fees to create a Willowbrook Automotive Education Scholarship funded by Brenda's repayments. 3 teens had already gone to trade school, including Linda's nephew Diego. Sarah and I had been dating for 4 months, bonded by our shared battle. The Camaro that started it all was now a minor legend in car circles. I turned down offers to buy it. Some things are priceless. Our case set legal precedent in HOA fraud prosecutions across 3 states. The state even passed the Willowbrook Act, requiring annual audits for larger HOAs. These days, neighborhood block parties are a regular thing. Kids play, adults trade grilling tips, and the suburbs feel like they were meant to. Right now, I can hear Tom mowing his lawn and smell Linda's baking through my garage windows, the scent of a healthy community. Share your HOA horror stories in the comments. Keep records. Keep pushing. And remember, justice still works when ordinary people refuse to back down. Next week on HOA Stories, a Karen tries to steal a veteran's service dog and learns a federal law lesson the hard way.